Hello, listeners. I'm Timstradamus, and with me, as always, is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome to all listeners to Monday, where if Monday had a face, I'd punch it.
What? That was a good... Voyse and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for thought.
Well, let's jump right into the stories while I enjoy my morning cup of brew.
Oh, what are you going to enjoy today?
Strawberry lemonade tea.
Well, let us start our stories, shall we? For any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. For our first story, am I the a-hole for refusing to honor my boyfriend's family's tradition? My boyfriend Eric, 29 male, fake name, and I, 27 female, have been dating for 3 years. For context, I have met his family and they are friendly. We don't meet them very often because they live in my boyfriend's home country. I don't want to reveal country names either for privacy reasons, but my boyfriend and I are of different nationalities and we both work in my country. The conflict happened during our last visit last weekend. We have been looking up houses to move in together and engagement rings. While we were having dinner, we mentioned this to his family as it's a big step in our relationship for us. We are not engaged yet. His parents and brothers expressed their happiness for us. Then, out of nowhere, his youngest sister-in-law asked, "So is she going to take the test?" I asked, "What test?" In summary, boyfriend's family has this tradition where the future mother-in-law tests future daughter-in-laws to see if they are good enough for her sons. Apparently, his mother and aunts went through the same test. The tests include how clean they can keep a home, how well they can cook, their manners, etc. Basically, life skills most people learn from childhood. I found it ridiculous because 1, if I'm not good enough for my boyfriend, he should be the one deciding it. And 2, I don't fit in their targeted category. In his mom's words, "You can't be a good stay-at-home wife and stay-at-home mom if you can't be a good homemaker," and she wants to make sure of that. To be clear, his mom and all 3 of his brothers' wives are stay-at-home moms, and although I respect their choice, I am not quitting my career and did not under any circumstances make my boyfriend think I could compromise on that. I hate house chores, and I would rather buy homemaking gadgets and hire staff no matter the cost than to have to do chores myself. I told my boyfriend's mom all this, and it caused an argument that eventually ruined dinner and an extension, our visit. My boyfriend doesn't care whether I'm a working wife or a stay-at-home wife, but he thinks I should have just done the test because it's just a test. And it's not like they would reject me if I failed it. He thinks it's a fun tradition that everyone was looking forward to, and I should have gone along with it anyways. My boyfriend thinks I'm the a-hole and suggested I make this post. If I really am the a-hole, I'm sure you guys will let me know. So am I? Edit. Adding this as it's been coming up. I know disclosing the country may or may not bring up some unwanted arguments that will violate the rules here, but just for context, it's a family tradition, not a national culture.
Wow, look at this splendiferous first story you gave us.
I love that word.
So for clarification, she already says it. This is a tradition that's only within the family, not within the culture.
Correct.
Interesting. The boyfriend says everyone was looking forward to watching these tests. Like this is some Goblet of Fire tournament situation.
I didn't even think of that, but yes.
Okay, that's what I heard when you said all these things or read the story is how is it that you could test someone with, I guess it was cleaning, cooking, and like housekeeping just in general.
Correct.
So I just feel like I'm seeing a bunch of older women sitting there with stopwatches, letting the OP clean as hard as she can in a dirty mess that they have created for her. I don't know. I would love to have them explain what this tournament of cleanza is because it sounds very interesting to me. So she's asking if she's the a-hole for not participating in the family tradition of cleaning and housewifing.
Correct. I find this very interesting because the poster actually says it's the boyfriend that wanted her to make this post to begin with.
Yeah. I think he thinks he's right. He's going to find out though. And I feel she's not from her boyfriend's country. She sounds like she's a career woman. She already says it. So she is not a part of being the housewife situation.
Correct.
And she's already let her boyfriend know about this. So there is no weird unknown expectations for the relationship going forward. I guess I can understand from the boyfriend going, it's harmless. just do it. But he's not seeing the problem through her lens, where she's not planning on doing this. This isn't her life. I understand trying to like appease family, especially when you first get introduced to your significant other's mother, father, all those things that come with the social norm of trying to fit in and make someone else happy. That happens when you try. And she
I can see that.
did no. I don't think the OP is the a-hole. I think it's a weird, again, it's like a tournament that are they all getting like dressed up and putting like red war paint on their face right before she starts cleaning? Like, I want to know. I think it's a very interesting. Do they explain what goes on? Do the other people get that itch and want to know what these tournaments are?
There is a lot of people that is very interested in what this test entails. In fact, well, you went ahead and you provided us what you think. Reddit also has come out and said that she's not the a-hole.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a lot of commenters, a lot of very creative commenters. Please, listeners, you have to read some of them. But let me just go ahead and provide you with sort of a paraphrasing of most of them. For one of them, it said, technically, this was the boyfriend's test, was to tell his mother that she's not taking this test.
Okay.
And therefore, he failed the test. Another commenter went ahead and said that if she's supposed to take a test, then he's supposed to take a test, because it's only fair that he learn how to change transmission, that he go ahead and install a new muffler, that he carry heavy objects, that he go ahead and fix a leaky faucet. We even had one break it down into rounds.
Nice.
And apparently in the last round, if he even gets past round 7, because they went up to round 7 in their post, round 7 was just to defend his wife's honor at a bar. And then the very last round was apparently to show his paycheck and make sure that he can go ahead and cover expenses for himself, his wife, and 3 kids. And if he can't, he's failed. Another one says that there should be a round where they go ahead and they leave him in the middle of the woods, and then he has to trek back all the way to civilization, where our OP's family will be sitting there judging it. It's actually very creative, all of this. But I think the best thing that I can offer right now is that we have an update from our poster.
Yes.
So let me go ahead and read that. Several things have happened since my post, and I've received requests for an update, so here it is. This will be my only update. I got a lot of insight from the votes and comments in my original post, and I would like to thank you all for that. I showed my boyfriend the responses and judgments on the original post. Most of you felt I was not the a-hole, and like you would guess, he was upset by this judgment. He tried to make his own post, but was the a-hole so badly he deleted it in less than an hour. Anyway, I talked to my family and told them about the test. Yesterday, they called us home for dinner and told him they would let me take his family's test if he let my dad and male cousins put him through a similar test. He blew up about how ridiculous it is because it's a family tradition for his family, but for mine it's something we came up with at random. He ended up saying it's okay if I don't do the test, but my parents and I were being childish. He let slip mid-argument that his youngest sister-in-law didn't want to do the test either, but look at her, the perfect wife. He said a lot of things, but long story short, he is still supportive of whatever I want to do with my life after marriage, but his family will never think the same way. However, I was starting to see a pattern, so I asked to take a break. It was great while it lasted. It's not a fun or cute update, but here you go. Time for me to binge watch heartbreaking movies with a giant tub of ice cream. Once again, thank you for the comments and judgment. Sometimes we just need that one little thing to show our true colors, right?
I think that's hilarious though. She's like, my cousins and my dad, we got something for you. And he's like, no. I draw the line at this. All right.
I find it funny that he actually started his own post and they a-holed him so badly that he took it down in an hour.
That's awesome.
Well, while we go ahead and move past this family, let's see about what it's like to be next door to this person. For our next story, would I be the a-hole if I report my downstairs neighbor to the landlord? I'm going to try and keep this short. My downstairs neighbor of 3 years recently moved her mother in shortly before Thanksgiving. Ever since, her mother burns sage like crazy. They both believe believe in crystals and horoscopes and all that stuff. This wouldn't be an issue to me normally. What they do in the apartment is their business, but this time it is affecting my family, me especially. She burns so much that it's all I can smell in my apartment to the point that I can't breathe. Last time it happened, since I have anxiety, it triggered an attack. Now, I don't know what this woman's deal is, but when we go downstairs to ask her to stop, she flat out refuses to answer the door and ignores us. She's currently burning it right now, and I can barely breathe. I want to call my landlord and ask him to come ask them to stop and not do it anymore since it's causing issues, but I worry my neighbor will see this some sort of way and hate me for it. We have a pretty good neighbor relationship now. We occasionally talk, and I babysat her kids for almost 3 years, thus making my life living hell near her. I know my neighbor is one to retaliate because she's told me as much about other people. So, would I be the a-hole for forcing them to stop burning sage in their apartment if it's causing problems for me?
We'll start with this. The OP already said that they have tried to reach out to the downstairs neighbors.
Correct. Particularly the mother when she burns the sage.
So they've already done their due diligence on that part. It sounds like the downstairs neighbors have ignored the request and have not come to the door anymore. So they're already showing you that they don't want any part of the situation. If they're not answering the door and giving you at least the courtesy of hearing you out. I don't think the OP would be an a-hole if she reported to the landlord, because honestly, there's nowhere else for you to go at that point, right? If they're ignoring you and you know that this sounds like a condo situation, is that what this is?
It's either a condo or an apartment.
Okay. It's no different if you live on the top level and you're making sure that you're not slamming and dragging chairs all the time. It's just courtesy at that point. I would say that the OP is not the a-hole in this situation. It sounds like they would be burning a lot of sage to get that type of... They're filling up the second floor with that?
It appears to be that way, yes.
What could you possibly be doing with burning that much sage?
I'm not sure. Although, well, let me go ahead and let you know what Reddit's consensus is. They say that she's not the a-hole if that's her next move. That she's tried her due diligence to make sure that she has communicated, or tried to in this case, and she did provide a little bit of clarity. Apparently, she says that her downstairs neighbor, the daughter, mind you, remember the mother moved in, and it's the daughter and the mother that live there currently. And from what she made it sound like, the daughter thinks that her apartment or her home is haunted. And I believe, and a lot of Redditor comment actually say that she's probably burning that sage because it's supposed to get rid of evil spirits.
This got spicy.
Now, there's unfortunately no update.
Oh.
She did say that they are really superstitious, but a lot of people are saying, one, look at your contracts, see if there's a no smoke violation. And if there's not, you can take it to the next step. And it might be something that needs to be added on to all of the lease agreements if this is causing sort of a health issue.
Yeah.
But it will be her battle to go ahead and go through with it.
I mean, I get it. I love hearing paranormal stories and that type of stuff, so it's always cool, but like find something else other than filling your house full of sage, I guess.
Well, let's go ahead and leave this smelly neighbor behind. And let's go to our next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my son father would be so ashamed? My husband was a jewelry designer and I was a receptionist. We had met through a mutual friend. We dated for 6 months before he asked the question. My engagement ring was very special and unique. My engagement ring was an extension of my wedding ring, meaning the two fits together. And the stones for my ring are not diamonds, but both of our horoscopes gems, mine on his and his on mine. He told me that the minute he first met me, he started to design our rings knowing I was the lady for him. And on our wedding night, we made a promise to never take it off. We lived the most romantic life one can live, and we had only one son. Unfortunately, my husband died 10 years ago. It was the worst years of my life. When he was buried, he had our rings on, so I refused to take my rings off. Yesterday, my son called me asking if he could come over to my place to discuss something. When he came over, he told me he was going to ask his girlfriend to marry him, and to do so, he would like my ring. I love his girlfriend a lot and think they would make an excellent pair. I was shocked. and said no, this is not a topic of discussion. He told me it would mean a lot to his girlfriend, and I said she can have anything out of my jewelry box except my ring. He told me that his girlfriend has been hinting about the ring and that I can keep the wedding ring, but just give him the engagement ring. I told him that from that very statement, he doesn't understand the story and love behind the ring, that he can make one like this, but he can never have this, that I am to be buried with this ring. In anger, he called me an old hag stuck in the past, and if I don't give up the ring, he will not just invite me to the wedding, but cut me out of his life forever. I was shocked. My husband and I did not raise a brat. The words slipped out of my mouth, telling him that his father would be so ashamed and shocked at the way his son turned out to be. Without a word, he turned and left. I was standing there for some time before getting bombarded by calls from relatives calling me a bitch for saying that, and now the only way to fix this is to apologize and hand the ring over. Am I the a-hole? My son is well aware of the story between us, and he was very wealthy. I can understand wanting a family ring, but I have plenty of rings of all gems designed by my husband. My son is 35 years old, and he was 25 at the time of my husband's passing, and his girlfriend is 34. She is also well aware of the story behind my ring, so I don't understand why she would hint that she wants it. Sorry for spelling mistakes. My English is okay, and my hands are very shaky. Am I the a-hole?
Don't apologize for your words. You did just fine. I'm sorry that your family has your whole family has kind of put you through this. If they understand the story, that should have been the end of it. You're definitely not the a-hole. I'm sorry that your husband passed. It sounds like a very sweet story. Thank you for sharing that with everybody. I'm kind of shocked. This is a very severe story, especially if she's caught off guard by how her son is reacting to all of this. I don't understand how you would think it's okay to... I mean, I understand asking the question first. Hey, Mom, I love that ring. I want to propose to my wife with it. All right. At that point, if she says no, that should have been the end of that. But to berate her and essentially say that ring belongs to me because my girlfriend wants it, that's crazy.
Oh, definitely.
Especially when it means so much to his mother. What? And I would be very afraid and make sure that's put into your will that you be buried with the ring, because it sounds like you might not be able to if this is how he's reacting and the rest of your family's reacting. So, yeah, you're definitely not the a-hole. If that's how he's going to act, you're better off just not going to the wedding and being a part of his life. I don't see a benefit to having someone who's choke holding you. Yeah, I just walk away feeling bad for the OP in this situation. I hope that Redditors gave her some good advice that helped her, because it sounds like she's writing this as this is all happening, so I hope that she got some good advice and sticks by her guns and understands that she is not in the wrong here.
Well, all of Redditors do also say that she's not the a-hole. This is her property, and it means a lot to her, more than just having some fancy piece of jewelry. She even said it on here, where she said, you can make a replica of this ring, but you can't have this particular ring. This was something that was made by her husband, and he was buried with his other half. A lot of commenters actually suggested that she explicitly put in her will that ring needs to be buried with her.
Yup.
That way, because you can never know what happens, unfortunately, once you're gone from this earth. But if you want to go ahead and make sure that whatever happens after you is done correctly, that's what wills are for.
Yep.
And unfortunately, there is no update. Well, let's go from one family to another, shall we? For our next story, am I the a-hole for telling my sister the reason why she doesn't look like me or my brother is because she's not one of us? I'm 17 male, the middle child in the family of 3. I have one elder brother, Adam, 23 male, and one younger sister, Bella, 6 female. My parents, both 48, only had my sister a few years ago via surrogacy because they wanted another child and some other reasons. While my mom and dad did try to have Bella themselves, their attempts failed multiple times. Because Bella was born via surrogacy, she looks different from me and my brother, of course. Now, Bella's teacher had assigned a task where they had to write about their family and make a family tree of some sorts. My mom was very excited to do a task like this, and she got out our family photo album and began showing Bella photos of our aunts and uncles and other relatives. Bella's very curious, so she began to notice the differences between her and our relatives, I guess, because she asked why she looked different from me and Adam and everyone else in our family. Most of my family is pale with mostly light brown hair. Bella's got tan skin with almost black hair. So yeah, she does look different. I just told her, you're not fully one of us. No malice intent or anything, just the truth. She isn't really like us in the sense of DNA and other things. I guess this news made her upset because she kind of started crying like crazy on the spot, and my mom just shot me a dirty look, like she wanted to skin me alive or something. It took quite a while of reassurance for Bella to understand that being different wasn't anything bad and that she was still her child regardless. I got a call from my older brother saying I was being a total a-hole and that I was ridiculous for saying such a thing to a 6-year-old and that I should be ashamed of us. It was just something I said. I mean it when I say there was no bad intention behind it. Bella was bound to know in the future anyway. So what was the harm in telling her now? Edit. Didn't mention this, but my sister's been avoiding me lately because of what I said, and she's kind of been distancing herself when family comes in, as much as a 6-year-old can. Am I the a-hole?
All right. So normally when we're talking about kids, I try to put the gloves on because they're kids. But you are 100% the a-hole in this situation. Yes, the only good point that you brought up in this entire thing, OP, was that eventually she will learn this stuff, but not at 6 years old. I think that was a very cruel and callous thing to have said when she's just looking over, I guess, photos, like to have pointed that out. I'm sure that there was malice. He might have said that I just did this harmlessly, but at 17, I understand maybe you're not being emotionally aware of a situation isn't fully on your plate at that point, but you kind of need to be. You sound like the perpetual middle child. And it makes me upset like you have no idea right now. I hate that for your 6-year-old sister. Yeah, I would be getting away from you too. If that's how, I can only imagine other things you've spoken to this child. And I don't even know if apologizing at this point fixes what you've done. So you might...
no, because it's like a seed that will just...
That's something that will probably scar her for a long time. She might have to go to therapy to feel like she belongs somewhere. You've started something that I don't know if you're going to be able to fix anytime soon. So,
if at all.
Yeah, that's where I'm shocked that there are certain moments in time that everyone has with their relatives, siblings, what have you, that are like pivotal, and that's kind of one of those stakes in the ground that she's going to remember. So I hurt and I'm upset for her, and it never feels good especially when it's coming from a family where someone outs you. I just, at 6 years old, man, I don't get that. So as clever as you thought you were being in the moment, you're quite an a-hole in my book. So
well, all of the commenters also agree that he is the a-hole, and to your point, a lot of them say it's because she's 6. Yes, this would be something that she would learn over time.
Sure.
Over time when her parents are ready and prepared to tell her. Apparently, it's so bad that she's actually trying to pull herself away from the family as much as a 6-year-old can is a very, very sad thing. And I just wish this family well. I hope that whatever it's something that I was told once by my grandfather, which is when you get cut, when it heals, it leaves a scar because it's never the same as it once was. And that's how it's going to be for this family. While maybe the scar might heal up, it will never be the same ever because of this one comment.
She's so young. I don't get it. I don't understand the poison behind the words because he sounds like he's ignorant to it, but there's intent. That's where I feel the intent. And that's why I say it sounds like a middle child with that weird like jealousy. I can feel that in the story is when you're talking to me about it. It's like there was a real intent behind the word.
Actually, that's interesting because another Redditor commented and said, it sounds like you're upset that she took the baby spot in the family.
That's all I'm reading in this. So, OP, grow up. That's all I'm going to tell you. Grow up.
Well, let's continue on and let's deviate away from family and go towards your daughter's friends. For our next story, am I the a-hole for telling on my daughter's friend? My daughter is 8 and she had a friend, let's call her Jane, over for a sleepover. I was more than happy to host her, prepared activities for them, and everything went great. This morning, my daughter and Jane insisted on making breakfast, which was fine. I allowed them to make toast while I made eggs and smoothies for them. They must have messed with the settings on the toaster, and the bread came out a little burnt. Jane said something along the lines of, "Ew, what happened?" And before I could react, she picked it up and put it in the trash. I was appalled and shocked. For context, Context: I didn't grow up with much, so tossing food in the trash was not something I've done or seen. Although I understand she's a child, I explained to her that this isn't okay. People work hard to afford food, etc. And of course, my daughter was very embarrassed, which is understandable from her perspective. What is crazy is Jane's mom's reaction, who informed me that my behavior was unacceptable, and I had no right to call out her child, and it was probably traumatic for her. She took no accountability for Jane's actions. Now 3 people are upset, and I'm here thinking, am I the a-hole? Edit: it's not as much about the loss of the slice of toast as the nonchalance with which it was tossed away that was surprising. Just to clarify. Edit 2. I was shocked, as it took me by surprise. It was unexpected. I didn't yell at her. I just explained that throwing food away isn't okay and why that is. She seemed to take it pretty well, but must have informed her mom as well. I didn't see her mom in person because I dropped them off at school after. Am I the a-hole?
So the OP has a daughter, and her daughter has a friend over. They're eating breakfast before school. Some toast gets burnt, and the daughter's friend picks it up, throws it in the trash. Yeah, to the OP's horror, she does it very nonchalantly, in her words. Just tosses it. I guess this one is definitely like a perspective game. She's an adult. She says she's come from little means. So throwing away food, I can get that. She also says that she didn't berate the child. She didn't yell at them. She didn't sound like a scolding happened. It just sounded like she was teaching her, I think, anyway.
Correct.
It sounds harmless to me. These aren't terrible values to instill in children. I don't think, anyway. Like, wasting things is not good. I would like to know how burnt the toast got. Like, are we talking like ash burnt? Are we talking like very, very dark? Like you couldn't mess with it? Or are we talking like a little bit of burnt? Right? Like, because that would affect me as far as whether or not I throw it away. Because if it's fully just gone.
I mean, if the parent was there, she would have smelled it be like charred burnt. You know, in this case, literally from how she made it sound like, it got a little burnt.
See, I would have eaten it. But I guess really I just made my own point. I would not have, I hate this, especially when you're talking about other people's kids, when they're interacting with other people's children, right? That's the problem is I can see where a lot of parents would be like, why are you talking to my kid about these things? You should have just thrown the toast away because you invited them to their home. They're the guest. If they didn't want that, that's the end of that. But I also understand that learning things from people is good. Like it helps you to grow. So, and I can even think in my head how many times that an adult when I was growing up gave me lessons that wasn't my parents that I learned a lot from, right? Even if it was something that I did on accident that was a poor choice, I learned from it through other people. I'm going to say that I don't think the OP was a hole.
Well, let me just start this by saying I actually agree with your viewpoint.
Uh-oh.
However, it seems that the consensus on the post is that the OP was the a-hole. However, I don't know if I side with this, so let me just go ahead and read an additional comment from our poster just to provide some insight into what it is that the poster did. Poster says, I really appreciate what you had to say. To be clear, I didn't call the mom about this. She brought it up. The girls seemed to have really enjoyed the sleepover. I didn't lecture her about poverty as many suggest. Jesus. Jane shares everything with her mom, as does my daughter, which is amazing, and I hope it doesn't change as she grows. Also, I didn't expect the children to eat the toast if it was burnt. It was about the conversation and the haste to throw things away, but it's been good to hear everyone's opinions. Now, a lot of commenters were saying how I guess this could almost shock the child to have somebody chastise them over something, but I think when you hop to something and you get upset to try and protect your child, a little bit of overprotection might not be the best thing. To get different perspectives than just mom and dad, but to get it from other adults, especially when you're at somebody else's house, that adult becomes a parental guidance in that case. That's why you're entrusting that child in the care of a sleepover. So that I'm not saying, and by no means to any listeners would I ever say that there be authoritative disciplinary actions. However, instructional guidance, I think, is something that all people who are adults watching over children should definitely do, as it's for the growth of a person. And I think a lot of people, when they reviewed this, they were thinking about the worst things possible.
Well, that's where I'm thinking in my head, like they say you shouldn't have chastised, but I don't think you can still teach someone and it not be chastising, right? I think a lot of people are like, she stood over the garbage can and yelled at her. about how she shouldn't have tossed away perfectly good food. I feel like she would have come to the child it sounds like calmly, and figured out how to tell her that wasting food isn't good, or like it should be at least thought about before done. Like I think the intent's good. But again, I can see where like people get really shady about going, look, that's not your kid. You shouldn't be teaching them lessons. All goes back to it takes a village to raise a child. And that's true. I think different life experiences and different outlooks can help someone grow. So I don't know. I guess it does come from what people think happened at the table. But I also know there are a lot of people, when they are given a chance to teach someone, a child, in a situation, they'll handle it poorly. And I've seen where they'll yell at the kid and create that scar.
Correct.
But,
and there was actually one commenter who explained that he had been over at a friend's place and he, I guess, sat on an ottoman, and his friend's mom apparently like yelled and screamed at him to get off this ottoman. And it really kind of just almost like scarred him. But from how the commenter said, it was something that he appreciated in his life, because there are some things that people do in their house that he should be mindful of, right? Sure, her reaction was poor, but he decided to take that and use it as a positive thing in his life. And I think this is where a lot of people get sort of mixed. You should by no means take something of criticism and turn it in the worst way possible.
I can hear it, is that a lot of the commenters are coming at it from their experiences where they did have a poor teacher, right? Where the first thing that person did was completely destroy them and yell at them for a mistake, where I don't think that's what happened here. I think this was a teaching moment that she handled properly. And then again, people are just extrapolating what happened to them and putting it on the situation instead of just looking at it for what it was. It was a teaching moment for the kid. The adult may not have liked it because, again, your children are you. They're a reflection of your values. So maybe the parents on the other side being upset are thinking that because you did this to my child, you're making an assumption on me.
Correct. And that's never the case.
So, like, I just think the OP isn't the a-hole, but I can understand where people want to have their opinions on it too.
Well, I feel like we've delved a lot into families, friends, and neighbors. So let's end this with a wedding.
Oh boy.
For our last story, am I the a-hole for having a dry wedding and serving only water for drinks?
Yes.
Throwaway only because I don't want this on my main. Okay, so basically my husband and I are getting married later this year. Each of our sides of the family are fairly big. It will be around 100 to 150 people total. My husband and I are paying for all of this all ourselves, as well as my grandma, who said she doesn't care one way or the other on this issue. She just loves weddings. We have a lot of kids in our family, so we decided against making it child-free, but we did decide to make it dry. So there will be no alcohol of any kind at our wedding. Honestly, this doesn't have anything to do with there being kids there, but due to the fact that my fiance and I don't drink. Nothing against people who do, it's just not for us and we don't want to. On top of that, we only really drink water. We rarely, if ever, drink soda, so most of the time, it's only water with the occasional juice and milk. We don't even drink coffee. So obviously the food, which is a part my grandma is not paying for, is going to be expensive for that many people. We are having our wedding catered, so everyone will have a good choice of food to choose from, but to drink only water will be provided. We don't want to have to pay for alcohol or soda. It is just a large added expense when we can just do filtered water for a much cheaper cost. Well, when family and friends found out, they got angry. Some didn't really care, but some were really upset about it, saying that I can just have an open bar so I don't have to pay for drinks. We could, but still have to pay for the bartender, and we just really don't want to bother with the alcohol there. Or we should at least have soda, because how can we expect everyone to drink only water? The kids will be upset. The wedding will be boring. That this is not how weddings work, etc. So, am I the a-hole? I didn't think this would be a problem. It's only water. I mean, don't most people drink water every day anyway? Should we pay the extra to have soda to make the family happy? Am I the a-hole?
It's a good story to leave off on, because there are a lot of people that when they hear dry wedding, they'll actually just not go. That's like a lot of bare minimums, I think, for a lot of people. Like, is it dry? Because if it's dry, I don't want to participate. So, but you're allowed to have those reactions to it, because if that's how you live your life, that's how you live your life. Although I know that they say they don't drink and they don't have a problem with it, but it almost sounds like they do. That's just what I'm getting, especially because again, they are right. You could bring in soda, but
Or juice or
and
milk.
there's like a lot of different options here. But I also go on the side of, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the argument holds up the way they think it does. So I'm going to have to say that they're the a-holes because there are other things in alcohol to offer people. Yeah, especially when you're having a whole bunch of kids. You know what kids don't want?
Water. When they're inside of probably a really stuffy outfit that's itchy and they're
for
uncomfortable.
hours. Yeah, I don't know. I think that in this case, normally I side with the bride and the groom on, hey, my wedding, my rules. But in this case, I just feel like on the liquid stuff, you could offer more than water.
Well, all of Reddit says that they are the a-hole. In fact, somebody said something about potentially bringing some Kool-Aid.
Okay.
Now, let me actually read one of the top comments that had 75,000 votes.
Ooh.
They start, I know that technically you could be in the right, but here's the thing about weddings. The marriage ceremony is for you and your fiancé. The wedding is for everyone you've invited. It's an event you're hosting, and not providing any drinks other than water makes you a bad host/hostess. I've been to dry weddings. There was a couple that put real thought and effort into designing mocktails themed around their relationship. It was delightful, and everyone connected to the couple through it. Another couple had a sparkling cider tower in place of champagne, and everyone cheered with cider and flutes. When you're hosting an event, your job as hostess is to take care of your guests. Just because it follows a marriage ceremony doesn't make you any less the host of an event. And that means providing more than one drink option, especially non-alcoholic, especially to an event your guests are incurring expenses to attend and bringing gifts to. You, the a-hole, honestly. I fully support a dry wedding, but only water as a beverage is being a cheap host.
Hey, that's a good comment.
There was actually a lot of people that suggested mocktails are really an in thing where they can create very nice drinks, and it could be sort of like the highlight of what their relationship means to them, which I think is a very sweet thought.
Yes, it is. Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you see in the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. We will be regularly posting on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Let us know what you think about the stories today in the comments below. We always enjoy hearing them. And remember, if you post it, maybe we'll see it on the internet.